Hi everyone, this is Brett Simon. Thought I'd do a video for you today. I'm actually going to make this fairly short. I'm traveling tomorrow. I'll be away all week. I wanted to do a video to just answer any questions that you may have. Obviously, DV 2020 and DV 2021 is over. We lost the appeal. Although there is some discussion about an on-bank process, the lawyers, I think, sensibly are saying, look, just, for the sake of your own sanity, you kind of have to accept that this is over and move on. I personally don't see much opportunity to change the outcome. The appeal judges just made it very, very clear that that they wanted to shut this down for whatever reason. They took a long time to do that. I think they struggled with that decision in some ways, and I think they were clever in not dealing with the other issues within the lawsuit by simply using the deadline to shut everything down. But it's not as clear cut as the appeal sounded, because other judges who are no fools, Chuck and Mehta, they're not foolish, and they didn't see things quite as black and white as the appeal court seemed to make it seem, in their order. So I don't think it was as clear cut as the order would appear. But at the same time, the order is written in a way that is very, very black and white. So I don't think there's much movement from there. An on-bank appeal is favoured by the lawyers sometimes, and in this case too, because I think they felt that the panel that we got was unfavourable, and that a wider group of appeal judges from that same district would be more favourable for us. Hence the ask for an on-bank appeal. But I'm not sure if we'll even get that. We'll have to wait and see. But just from the point of view of your sanity, I think you really need to, consider this opportunity gone and make other plans, right? Okay, let's see. How is Ankara doing now? Bad. It's not doing well. It's going to end up in a difficult situation for a lot of people. There's one set of bookings left, just the remaining 2NLs for September. They can't possibly fix all the problems they've created in that 1 month, and I don't think they intend to. I don't think they intend to even try. So it's doing badly for DV 2024. How will it do for 25? It's too early to say, but because we have seen, for example, Nairobi change things round in 1 year. They went from a pretty bad embassy last year to a pretty good embassy this year. So, or very good embassy this year. So it is possible that we see that sort of thing again, okay? Will there be enough visas left for the Eurozone? Yeah, look, there are plenty of visas left at the moment. The only way that things could get difficult is if the government somehow loses their minds and pushes the visa bulletin too far and schedules too many appointments for the final month. I don't think they're going to do that because they've managed everything pretty well to this point. Why would they suddenly schedule a ton of interviews? But they would need to schedule a ton of interviews to even begin to cause that sort of problem. So they just scheduled, globally, they scheduled almost 3,600 interviews for the month of August. They don't have to do that many interviews for September. So they've clearly got the capacity. They should schedule around about 3,000, I think, roughly. Could be a few more than that, a few less than that. That would be fine, and we would get close to the global quota, but not hit it. And it's only by hitting the global quota that we would have a problem. And remember, I'm projecting for them to try and get to about 53,500, 54,000 visas, because there are adjustment of status visas as well that we don't see in the SEAC data. So there'll be about 1,000 people who adjust status in the USA. So hitting 54,000 would be a full year. So they don't need to do very much, in all honesty, to do that. They're pretty close to doing that already. How am I? I'm not very well, actually, to be honest, but thank you for asking. Don't know what I've got going on, but anyway. Do I have any chance? Great question, Sophia. I have no idea, because I have no idea about your case. Is heart failure disease from a main applicant can cause visa denial? No, as long as the main applicant remains alive. The diseases they're worried about are diseases that can be spread in the USA. Now, heart failure disease can't be spread, so there's absolutely no concern for the rest of the public. Obviously, there's concern for the person with heart failure disease, but there's no concern of that spreading. So there's no question that that's a consideration for immigration, right? It's not a problem. But somebody with that situation must understand that they need to go and get good insurance the moment they get to America, because health insurance here is very expensive, and you don't want to be uninsured in America. So you've got to have a sensible plan financially for looking after someone who's got that sort of condition. That's the only thing I would say. Just be very careful about the financial plan. Don't come here thinking that the streets are paved with gold and people will be throwing money and healthcare at you. That's not how things will work, right? So you've got to come with a realistic, sensible plan, and you've got to come with your own money. So make sure you can do that. If you can't do that, then there may be a concern for issuing a visa for you. Okay. What do I think about 73K? I'm going to assume that's Africa, although you didn't say. 73K could be okay, but it depends entirely on your embassy, right? So you're going to have to wait and see. In fact, I think just look, wait and see. All these questions, I know I'm going to get a bunch of questions here about what will the visa bulletin be, what are my chances for this country, this embassy, and that sort of thing. I don't want to answer those questions today, because we're going to see the visa bulletin this week, guys, right? There's no point in continuing to try and predict what we're going to see within a few days. And in terms of whether your embassy will schedule or not, well, you should by now understand how to go and look at that. I've shown that a number of times, so I don't think I need to do that again. And you ultimately you'll have to wait and see whether your specific case is going to be scheduled or not, right? So any update on the KDU backlogs? No, none. I was surprised actually that they didn't take another set of interviews. I'm hoping that they'll do a big September scheduling, but there's no indication that they will. They took 250 cases for the month of August. That was a surprise that they were that low, as far as I'm concerned. EU 28K, what are your chances? Too early to tell. We don't know the number of selectees yet in 2025. So we'll know more in July or August. We'll see either in the visa bulletin, excuse me, either the visa bulletin that's published this month in July or the visa bulletin that's published next month. We'll see the number of selectees, and then we'll have a better idea. Yerevan, yeah, I've talked about Yerevan. It's backlogged. It's not going to make everyone happy. I've shown calculations about that and talked about that in other videos. So there you go. 2020, can we make appeal in Supreme Court with compensation? There's no compensation. You can't. There is no compensation to be had for not receiving a visa that you were not guaranteed to receive in the first place, right? Immigration is a privilege, it's not a right. The costs that you spend on interviews and that sort of thing is you go in there knowing that you're spending that money at risk. You're not guaranteed to get a visa, even if you spent the money on medicals and the visa interview. So there is no compensation. And, not just everyone goes to the Supreme Court. There are many thousands of cases every year referred to the Supreme Court, and they refuse to listen to many of them, most of them. By far, most of them are never heard in the Supreme Court. So even if you appeal to the Supreme Court, there's no guarantee they would take the case. And certainly there wouldn't be compensation. If you're talking about financial compensation, there wouldn't be compensation. You as a foreigner, are not entitled to sue the government for compensation over a visa that you were maybe going to be granted, but only as a privilege, right? It's just not, you haven't got a leg to stand on, is what I'm trying to say. Is it possible during the interview to ask for a first visa longer than 6 months? No, I don't think it is. Got Russian citizenship remotely via one program, but never lived there. That sounds weird. Wanted to confirm I don't need a police certificate from Russia. You don't if you never lived there. The rules are very clear. You can read the rules. If you've never lived there, it's not based on citizenship. It's based on where you lived. And so if you never lived there, no, you don't need a police certificate there. After medical examination, does clinic send the results to consulate or only gives the package? It varies by physician and country. So there's no way I can answer that broadly for everybody's satisfaction. Check with the physician in your country. How is BKK doing? I think they're doing okay. I'm not quite sure, Lara. But you go and have a look at the data. You've got the data available. Is it possible for Egypt to reach 75K this month? I think that's unlikely, but we'll see. How many visas are left for Nepal? Any idea? You can go see Tech Pirate. You can go have a look on South Asia's site. I don't think there's any question of them hitting a cap at the moment. So there's plenty of visas left. I don't think they're going to hit the cap at all. And we've only got 1 month anyway. So it's going to be a matter of how many cases can they schedule. That's going to be the biggest deal, not the cap. Don't worry about the cap. Do you know anyone who interviewed in the Lome Embassy? Yes. When can I expect to get interview date for DV 25, 28K? That if you do get current, that number won't get current for probably a year from now. So relax. You've got plenty of time to find things out. Hi, Simon, we made it. Greetings from North Carolina, Carrie. Oh, nice. We arrived on the 4th of July, moved in. I remember you said you were traveling on the 4th of July. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for coming to say hi. That's awesome. My case is AF 35K, plus I'm planning to interview my case in Djibouti. Have a chance to get an interview? How is Djibouti Embassy doing? You don't mention the year. I'm not quite sure, what year you are. I haven't seen your name before, I don't think. So you need to quote the year, but also just go and have a look at Djibouti themselves in the South Asia's website. I don't want to do a lot of that today. Okay, summer 25. Yeah. So case number is 12,000 something from Nepal. Should I expect my 2NL? You have to wait and see. I hope so, but you have to wait and see. Good luck. Good day. Do the documents translated in English need to be notarized? Normally, no, unless the embassy specifically asks for notarized documents. And also apostilled. Again, no, not normally. For example, birth certificate or marriage document. What do you think? Next visa bulletin for EU. Okay, so we'll see what the next visa bulletin is. And no, you just need proper translations for your documents and the originals. And you want to make sure you take photocopies of the originals as well and leave those at the interview. Take photocopies of translations and the original documents because they will keep documents there. And if you leave the original documents, then you'll never see the original documents again. Okay. Is there any chance in the 2024 lottery for those who weren't selected? I think you mean the 25 lottery. Again, we don't know yet because we don't know how many people have been selected in the 25 lottery. And the only way that they issue a second set of winners is when they massively under-select in the first selection. So we don't know whether they've under-selected or over-selected. And just so you know, under-selection is around about 80,000 people. Over-selection is over 100, 105, 110,000. So, something in the sort of 90 to 100,000 range is perfect. That's what they should be doing. Okay, but we'll see. Please explain about I-134. Can someone who is not your host support you financially, and must you take it to Nairobi Embassy? Nairobi typically asks for it, but I wouldn't say it's asked for 100% of the time. It depends on the person being interviewed. It can be someone who is not your host that fills out an I-134. And so, it's a financial supporter as opposed to a host, which is a sort of somewhat informal arrangement. But certainly if you can get one, for most people, it's worth getting one if you can get one, okay? Okay. 65K from Kuwait, any hope? I don't know the year, but again, wait and see. 8K from Ghana, do I have a chance? I'm going to assume a DV24. You're very risky for DV24. We'll have to see about 25. 2 questions. What's your last cutoff prediction for EU? I don't have one, but I have said it. I've talked about this many, many times. So I don't need to repeat it again. And we're going to see the numbers this week. And how do you evaluate performance of Warsaw and Tbilisi embassies? Tbilisi seems to be doing pretty well. Warsaw's doing as well as can be expected. Given the additional capacity that they have to make available for other countries, right? So they're doing okay. I lost DV23. Do I have any chance? Depends why you lost DV23, but DV23 is gone. So you can enter again, and then you've got the same chance of being selected as anyone else. There's no advantage to the fact that you were selected before. No disadvantage. You've got the same chance as anyone else. It's a random draw. Okay. Good luck with your future entries. Will Addis reach 28.8K for September? It's going to be very close. Put it like that. I don't know that they'll reach 28.8. It depends how many interviews they take. If they take about 120, then I think they're probably going to be a little bit below that number. But we'll see. It's difficult to predict with precision, obviously. When is the last month for interview in 2024 DV? September is the last month. September 30th is the last day. There are some people who interview on September 30th, which is perfectly okay. You can have your printed visa a few days after September 30th, as long as you're interviewed and approved on September 30th, right? Yeah, that'll be the last day. The last 2NLs will probably go out at the very early part of August. So the rough cadence of 24 is this week they'll release the visa bulletin. I'm pretty sure they'll do it this week. And immediately after the visa bulletin is released, they'll start issuing the 2NLs for September, right? And that's the same as it is every month, but that's basically what they'll do. And they'll continue with 2NLs up until early August, very early August, before the next visa bulletin, which is then about DV25. Okay. I am DV24 winner with case number EU 7000 in Ankara. Until now, don't receive any interview. What do you think? Will we be interviewed or not? Fingers crossed for you. You have a chance. You're in the right number range, but it really depends on Ankara. I don't know what they're going to do in the final month. Why is there a live for DV? I thought it was over for now. No, it's not over for now. I don't know what you're talking about. Over for now. There's constantly a DV process ongoing. Right now, there are winners for DV25 who have been selected but won't get interviewed yet. And there are DV24 winners who are being interviewed right now and still receiving interviews and being issued visas. So it's not over. No, don't why you think it's over. Case number is AS13200. I'm from Sri Lanka. When will I get my 2NL? If you get your 2NL, it can only be in the next few weeks, because once we're through to the next visa bulletin published in August, then DV24 is over. Hi Simon. How long does DNA test take to complete the process? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how long that will take, and I don't know what the procedures are in your country. DV25, EU 28,000. Just married with my wife. Should we fill the DS260 only after changing her passport? She took my surname, and currently we just have passport with a maiden name. I would. So you don't need the passport in order to fill the DS260. If you've already married, submit now with her new legal name, right? The married name. And you can mention the passport number that she has, which will name. That's not a problem. You'll show the new passport at the interview when you get the interview, which is going to be a year from now, right? So you've got plenty of time to sort this out. But do fill out your DS260 soon, okay? Abu Dhabi is a complete disaster. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Abu Dhabi. It's really weird. Very weird. Haddock says, I want to ask something about case transfer. I transferred my case to Frankfurt for DV25. I don't have any resident working permit in Germany. Is there a chance about the interview there? Why are people already transferring their interviews for DV25? It depends how you did the transfer. Basically, they're going to base your embassy based on your current address. So you may think you've transferred to Frankfurt, but did you give a German address? Because that's how they will look at your scheduling. They will schedule you. They ignore what you asked for, and they schedule you based on where you live. Okay. Now, SEAC data reached 60,827. How far does it reach maximum? I don't know what that means. Hi, Simon. At what case number will reach Asia 24? I don't know. We'll see. Good morning. I'm from Sri Lanka. Case number is 15299. Is there any chance of getting the 2NL? Maybe. It's somebody with a number just a couple of thousand below yours just asked. They've got obviously a better chance than you. But maybe is all I can say for that. You'll have to wait and see. Done that question. Does having an immediate relative in the USA who is LPR, now based on asylum, and having prior refusals in 1 B1, B2, and four F1 visas? Well, I don't know. So, Daniel, I'm trying to read this again. Like, who's got the who's got the refusals in the B1, B2, and who's got the refusals in the F1 visas? So look, let me just generally say the fact that you've got a relative in the USA who's an LPR makes no difference, other than they are able to fill in an I-134 for you. But it doesn't help you because this isn't a family-based process. Right? It only helps you for that financial support if you can get an I-134 from them. In terms of the refusals for non-immigrant visas, the overwhelming reason that non-immigrant visas are refused is because the consular officers believe that you will try and stay in America at the end of your visa. They don't believe that you're going to return home. And so what's important when you're applying for a non-immigrant visa is to show that you're going to return home, right? Now, in DV lottery, that whole reason to refuse you doesn't exist because it's an immigrant visa. It's not a non-immigrant visa. And so the fact that you've been refused before, probably for immigrant intent, where they didn't believe you were going to go home, well, they were right? Because now you've got a DV lottery win and you want to emigrate. So they were right all along. but that's not going to be a problem for you unless you lied or did anything stupid during those other applications. Okay, so hopefully you haven't lied to the government. That would be a silly thing, right? What about the good luck plaintiffs? The DV 2020 and 21 cases are over, and so there's nothing more that can happen for those plaintiffs. Although do listen to your lawyers if they have an update, which I discussed at the beginning of this video. I've lived in Pakistan for 4 years studying, and I will take my interview in Islamabad. I'm from Afghanistan. What documents do I need regarding being in another country? Read the reciprocity page, please. I'm not going to tell you which documents you need. You need to read the instructions. And when I say read the instructions, there are basically 3 sets of instructions you need to read. One is the website that is comes up on Google when you Google the words "if you are selected." That's the sort of the general instructions. Then you have the reciprocity page, which is about each country has certain standards of documentation, and that's all explained in the reciprocity page. And then the embassy that you're going to interview at also publishes some instructions. That's another one you should read because they have some specific requirements, perhaps, for their embassy. Okay, so read all of those instructions. Don't ask me to give you a list of documents that you will need because I don't know your situation, right? So you need to figure that out. Zakaria says, do you think that all people in Morocco can be scheduled knowing that the VB has reached 70K and the last case number scheduled is 51.8? I don't know. It's going to be a tough ask, I would say. My gut reaction is probably no, but we'll wait and see. Lagos. I don't know what you're doing in Lagos. So Lagos hasn't interviewed a single case in 2 years. So yeah, if you said you were waiting for Lagos embassy, that was not a good idea. Frankly, you should have moved. You should have gone to a different embassy. I don't know why you didn't. Any chance for SA 3215? Maybe. Wait and see. How can I improve my chances of selection after 10 years of application without winning the lottery? Number 1, make sure your photos comply completely, right? Number 2, enter the lottery. Don't tell any lies when you're entering, because if you enter and you've lied during the entry, it's very frustrating. Every year I have to tell people they've already screwed up, they shouldn't proceed anymore. But understand it is just a random draw process, okay? So you just have to keep on trying. Tech Pirate says, do they perform drug tests for cannabis? They can do. They a habitual I struggled to say that this morning. A habitual drug user is a concern from the medical point of view, and so they could be concerned about someone who is dependent on cannabis, right? So yeah, you definitely want to downplay that a little bit in your interview. Okay, don't lie, but you know, it shouldn't be a heavy drug user going for an interview or a medical for an immigration process. Will they reach up to 85K from Africa, Liberia precisely? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to get 25, but I could be wrong. And you know, maybe we'll see that, but we'll see that in the next few days. Okay. If a person got a revoked visa, will they have issues for future petition to obtain? So, actually, it totally depends on the circumstances of the case. If you're concerned, speak to a lawyer. But I can't tell you just a random quick answer on that. Already answered that. Ethiopia 32K is probably not going to get an interview, and I've explained that many times. I've calculated that many times, and I've shown how to do the calculation. So I think that's going to be too high. Will it delay? No, it won't delay. You can fill your DS260 in now for a DV 2025. Okay. This is a good question. I like this one. Reasons to open the DS260 and reasons not to open. Okay, reasons not to open. First of all, let's say you make a small mistake on the address or the name of your school that you attended 20 years ago. Nobody gives a damn, right? Don't unlock for that sort of stupid thing. Let's say you have a small spelling mistake in an address 10 years ago. Nobody cares, right? Don't unlock for that. Let's say you've got a spelling mistake in your legal name. You unlock for that. You do unlock for that. Let's say you got your date of birth wrong. You unlock and you change that. You get the right details. So what's important, and your marital status has to be correct, right? There are important things and there are non-important things, right? And things like I mentioned, the address of a school, the address of a workplace, the address of yourself, those things are trivial. But things that relate to your identification, your name, where you were born, your current address is kind of important. Your age, your date of birth, those things are important. So you need to unlock and correct those. And please, no one mention to me that unlocking causes delays, because it doesn't. That's a stupid thing. And just this week, I had yet another case of someone who believed the bullshit that unlocking causes delays, didn't unlock, and therefore lost their visa. So because they didn't want to update their address, and they thought that the email that they sent to KCC to get their embassy switched would be enough. It wasn't enough. They should have updated the address, and they've effed up their visa. They've lost their visa because they didn't unlock and correct the address. And it was because they were scared, because they were told bad information about unlocking. All right, so unbelievable. But so people that put out these stupid rumors, they need to stop it, because it's never been true, and we've proven time and time again it's not true. I don't know what more I can say. Colombo Embassy 2NL not got since mid-May. Yeah, no, not quite sure what's going on there. I have no idea. I don't have contacts at the embassy to be able to sort of understand that. Okay, I did say this is going to be a shorter session today, so I'm going to take just a few more and then we'll call it a day. I transferred my case to Frankfurt. Oh, we already talked about this one. Hello. Yeah, talked about that. Well, I explain the exact meaning of the word current. If the visa bulletin will be current, what's the limit of the case number that will be interviewed? Thank you. Right. First of all, we're not going to see the word current on the visa bulletin. We're not. We've seen that in previous years on some countries. We've seen it in some years on not countries, regions. We've seen it on all regions in some years. But those years are unusual years. That's not the norm. We're not going to see the word current on the visa bulletin for this final month. What current means when we're talking about the visa bulletin is that there is no more numerical restriction on the case numbers. So any case number in theory could be interviewed. So if, for example, let's just dream a minute. This won't happen, but let's dream and say that Africa showed current in the final visa bulletin. That would mean that someone with a case number 122,000, which is about the highest case number, could in theory be interviewed. That's what it would mean. But we're not going to see the word current, so that won't happen. So sorry if you're at 122K, but you're not going to get a chance. And that has been clear for quite some time now, many months. Okay. We also talk about a case being current. So, if your case number is 33,100 in Africa, for example, and the visa bulletin goes to 35,000, then because your number is below what the visa bulletin says, then your case is current, right? That's what that means. But generally speaking, people think it's about the region being current in the visa bulletin, and what does that mean? That's what people are typically asking about. Marie, suggestions for good lawyers for complicated DV cases. There is almost no such thing as a complicated DV case for a start. There is almost no reason to use a lawyer for consular processing cases. Now, let me sort of backtrack a little bit and say, look, before you decide you need to spend money on a lawyer, why don't you post a question explaining your circumstances and why you think there's a difficulty on my blog at brittsimonsays.com. Let me take a view on that and give you some advice whether you should get a lawyer or not. If you do need a lawyer, I can give you some suggestions of lawyers here in America who I would trust to handle cases. But understand, not very many lawyers know very much about DV lottery. And so generally speaking, most people don't need lawyers. There are some cases when it might be helpful, but generally not. Okay, so let me know what your circumstances are on my blog, and we can talk about it from there. Okay. In case if someone pursued an American accredited high school diploma after they failed grade 12 in the country, because having a national recognized diploma is crucial since arriving to the US. It's like half a question. I don't know what you're asking here. I'm going to assume, can you qualify? Look, you have to meet the standard of education or work experience in order to qualify for the DV lottery if you're the principal applicant, right? But your question is only half a question, so I don't know what you're already asking. Okay. Due to an ongoing war in Sudan, I hope it will be current in July. No. How about Asia? We already talked about it. Nepal AS 1420. Is there a chance? I'm not Nepal. I think there's very little chance, almost no chance in DV 2024 of there being a case of 1420 in Nepal. That's too high. There's no cases at that level. Okay, a couple more questions, and then I'm going to call it a day. Okay. Let's see. What happens if one goes for the interview without the medical examination reports due to a delay? Can the interview date be shifted? No, I suggest you go for the interview and follow up with the medical report later. That's the best way to do that. Don't shift the interview date. Just follow up with the medical once that's ready. Okay. Is it the same range since your prediction in January? Yes, it is. In pretty much all cases. Yeah, my ranges in January were probably quite broad. And so, for example, in Africa, we're already above the range that I said was the danger zone. We are not at the danger zone, for EU and Asia. So I do expect an increase for EU and Asia. For Oceania and South America, I believe we're pretty much there. There's not going to be much increase. We'll have to see. Okay, let me just scan down, see if I can find one more question here. Oh man, I'm seeing a lot of repeated questions. I just want to scroll down and see if I can find a good question. I see a lot of repeated questions. Do you think we'll have 35,000 for OC region? I don't think 3,500 goes current for DV24. I think it's unlikely for DV25, but you have to be clear about which year you're talking about, right? Okay, this will be my last question. Good day, sir. DV25 win. AF 61K. Played as married. Please, sir, I don't plan to migrate with the spouse. Do I need to also fill in the DS264 for her? No, you don't. You don't need to. So you don't have to fill in the DS264 for a derivative that is not traveling with you. But I would say, why is your derivative not traveling with you? Do you think that you want to take your spouse later? If so, then you may be better off processing with your spouse and then bringing her a few months after you arrive in the USA. Because if you do it the other way through a family-based sponsorship, that can take years. It's quite expensive and it's more complex. So you'll spend money on lawyers and that sort of thing. So think very carefully before splitting a family. It's usually better to go through the DV process as a group. Okay, everybody, we're going to call that a day. I did 40 minutes. I know that's shorter than normal, but I'm not feeling great and I've got loads of things to do. So I appreciate you joining with me today. Please do subscribe to the channel and I'll see you next weekend. I'm traveling all this week, so I won't be online this week, I don't think. But I will speak to you again next weekend. All right, bye-bye.